What is up, everybody? It is me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And tonight I am unfortunately joined by Zoe, the sixth or fifth juror of the season, seventh placer, something like that.
Yeah,
Um, Thank you so much, Zoe, for joining me. How are you? What's been up?
I am well. Honestly, not well, a lot's been like up since the game. Got a new job with Thomas, who right before me. He is my boss. It's a lot of fun. So at least in the very least, I'm very grateful to Ascendance for getting me a job.
You may not have won the game, but you won a job.
I sure did. I've won like so much more money than I would have won.
It's a great way to look at it, Zoe.
Yeah.
Um, So I wanted to start off by asking you, you were one of the people coming into the game that I was not familiar with. I had never seen you before. How did you find Ascendance and what made you want to play it?
So I've played games with Papa before, and he was editing in the midst of editing the first season when we played our game together. And so we were on calls a lot, and he'd be like, "Sorry, I'm editing Ascendance." And I was like, "Oh my God, what's that?" And then it ensued from there.
So that's an interesting way to come about it. And so going into the game itself this season, were did you do any research up on like what the format is? Any did you watch live one, or was it kind of just go in there and give it your best shot?
Well, I knew what the format was. I watched most of Live One, but I didn't watch all of it just because I was busy. Uh, um, but I did know the format. There were still some things that, like, not being completely familiar with it, having played before, like, surprised me, I suppose. But it's not a you know that complicated of a format. I feel like to deal with, at least in theory.
Yeah, once a couple of rounds get under your belt, you kind of figure out what the hell's going on in there, right?
Right.
Going into the game, you guys are led out into the big hallway, and into like the foyer area, and you kind of see everybody. Was there anybody that you were familiar with? I think I remember you saying that you knew of Keaton, but was there
Yeah.
anybody else?
So walking up to the, like, when I walked in, I saw no person that I knew. I was so freaked out. I was like, how do I like there's like 12 people here. How do I know not a single person? And then I walked out, and then Keaton walked out immediately after me, and I was like, that's ridiculous, because Keaton and I are like pretty close friends. That I would know literally nobody to then know like a somebody very closely walking out. And other than that, I knew a little bit of Kennedy, as you see, watching the first couple episodes of the season. And then I knew of like Hako Chris, and I knew Jodely. But Jodely was the funniest. I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, but like um hearing him like come out and be like not saying anything, and then finally getting to them at the very end, and you like hear their voice for the first time, and you're like, oh, I know exactly who that is. But like not being able to tell who it is from their face is a very interesting situation to be in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun to talk to Jodely about the the unmasking, and what that was like. But I want to dive into your game here. The first question I have for you is the wine reward seems to be the start of a really strong alliance.
Mhm.
Um, do you think that's what like kind of set up the formation of this four-person alliance? Was this wine night that you guys get through the casino thing?
Yeah, I want to say so. At least that's the first meaningful, like, legitimate contact or talk of strategy that I seem to have all like the entire night up to that point. Like, it's just getting to know each other to that point, and so I do feel like because there is such limited time, that may not be the case if you're playing like a long-term game, but because you don't have as much time to talk strategy with every individual person, that the conversations that you do have are really meaningful. And I don't even know if I recognized it at the time, but like, and then Drew and Thomas knew each other, and to like have just made a spark randomly with Drew like a couple rounds in. Yeah, I would say that that was probably the basis of why that all happened.
Cool. Um, you mentioned kind of knowing of Kennedy coming into the game. I don't know whether probably through an org or something. Um, there was a little bit of, I guess, beef in the beginning of the game. I guess you could call it. I don't know if we got really that much clarification on like what stemmed from that, but what was the reasoning behind it? You guys end up squashing it pretty quickly. So do you want to just
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to talk about like the reasoning. I just don't know if that's like a great, this very public setting. So, but not that, I just don't have anything to say about that. But like, never having interacted with her, like I came in with a sour taste in my mouth and like was kind of saying that, not realizing how quickly it gets around, because the person who becomes my closest ally, Thomas, is the one who spread that I said that. So yeah, just like that, it got around so fast. And then like in the very beginning, like Drew was targeting me, and then so like a lot of things happened where I told Thomas and Taisha some stuff at the wine night, and then Thomas told Drew. Drew was close with Kennedy, so he told her, and then Kennedy told Keaton, and then Keaton came back to me and was like, "Hey, everybody knows that you have beef with Kennedy." So, like the sequence of events there was really long, and when I heard it, I like panicked and I was like about to go to bed. It was like 4 a.m. and I slept so hard, like woke up in the morning being like, "Oh my god, I have to fix this." And like crawled into bed and like it's like, "Oh my god, I'm just so sorry. Like I came in with this interpretation of you," and just like had to immediately cut any preconceptions. And like we talked about it after the game too. And like she knows that the reason that I did it was for the game, but like I'm glad that it happened ultimately, just because like you don't need that kind of animosity in a group. Like it's just not necessary.
yeah, 100%. And it seems like you guys really recovered from that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that was great. I want to talk about Keaton's elimination because that seemed to be really tough for you. Seems like you kind of were balancing, your allegiances with people, this core four kind of thing, and
Yeah.
then your, one-on-one relationship with Keaton. And, as the episode title says, it was, a blindsided in its truest form. So walk me through how that was difficult for you.
So right after the round prior, when it was Jodelie's name on the block, I was doing it because I wanted to preserve my relationship with Christopher. Also, I do think that Jodelie was a huge threat in my eyes from really early on. So right after that, but I realized that like having been on the wrong side of the vote, that clearly the amount of people that wanted Jodelie there were more than the amount that wanted him out. So I was like, all right, and promised Jodelie that I would not vote for them in this upcoming round in front of Keaton. And like I've been known to lie before, that happens. And so I don't know if I was intending on keeping this promise, but like wasn't really given the opportunity to think about it because I was in a group with, people who I couldn't vote out, and Keaton and Jodelie. And so Keaton was like, "So what do we do then, Thomas?" And I was like, "No, like, I don't know. I don't want to do that." And Keaton was like, "Well, you can't do Jodelie. You just promised them that you wouldn't do that." And I was like, and he even said to me, like, he knew that I was working with Taisha. So he was like, "Well, you can't vote out Taisha because you guys are working together." Like, and I don't know. I just like knew that going with Thomas was the right thing to do because I knew that Thomas had a lot more personal and like good personal relationships with players like still in the game, and Keaton was like having somewhat of like a difficult time relating or making those relationships as quickly as Thomas was, and that it was just going to be in my best interest to go with Thomas. Aside from the fact that I just really didn't want to fucking vote him out. So I told Thomas that that's what Keaton said, and Thomas didn't even want to do Keaton. He was like, "Well, why don't we go for Jodie?" But everybody else wanted to go for Keaton after they heard that he was throwing out Thomas's name. So unfortunately, that's the sequence of events. I knew that I couldn't really change it either, so I just kind of had to do what I had to do.
And sometimes in these games, that's what you got to do. You know. Um, the next round's another interesting round where it seems like another inflection point in the game where Melissa is ultimately eliminated in this not hierarchy. I forgot that. I always forget the name. Food
Food
chain
chain, yeah.
challenge. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, there were talks between your alliance of keeping Melissa in the game. And remind me, were you on board with trying to do that, or were you on the other side of let's get Melissa out of here?
Not, I wasn't really on board with like trying to have her stay. Like I did appreciate that because she was having beef with Kennedy at the time, that there could have been some ability, like there could have been like some tension there that would cause the flow of the votes for the next couple of rounds. But at the same time, I just saw how many relationships that Melissa had, and that scared me a lot. And like they had a whole alliance that never came to fruition, and this whole thing. So I was really nervous that she was going to be my downfall in the end. So I was not with trying to save her, and I think I don't think it swung the group's opinion of my alliance, but it might have in some way. Also, yeah, the round that Melissa went, she and Erica were roommates, and like Erica told me afterwards that she was like annoyed that like Melissa woke her up early and stuff like that. So there was multiple people who were not on board um, with keeping Melissa.
Do you think that's a justifiable reason to vote somebody out, is if they wake you up early?
I can imagine being really annoyed. Um, I think once again, I think in like I don't know because now I was gonna say like in favor of it being a good move as if it were like a longer term game, but because you need sleep. But in the short term game, you're only getting so much sleep anyway. Erica did display a lot of needing to go to bed, and I relate to that a lot. So I don't blame her at all.
I think it's justifiable. Do I think? But everybody has their own opinion on sleep. So, um, okay, cool. So Melissa is voted out. So kind of works in your favor there that she gets voted out. And so you guys, this four-person alliance that you're a part of is really, rocking and rolling here at this point. Is Were you intending on going to the end with these four people, or did you want to kind of shake it up before it got to that?
No, I did want to go to the end with them, and it I probably, in my opinion, like wanted if I had to rank them with who I would like be in the final two with, it would be Drew, Taisha, Thomas, but like I would have had a really hard time ranking Thomas last like that because we were really close. So I'm not sure, but I would have wanted to go with Drew just because I feel like I could outspeak him and have a little bit more je ne sais quoi. I don't know. But yeah, it was my intention, and that I felt like people would respect my game enough on the other side, and we weren't coming out of it like super bitter, that they could see that this alliance was truly probably my best shot of getting to the end.
It's interesting that you ranked who you would want to, be in, the end with within that four, because I just spoke to Thomas and asked him the same question. Are you aware of what he said he would have answered, or can I give you a little breakdown of what he would say?
I think he would have wanted to bring Drew, and
He
then
said
we
you. He said you.
maybe he's feeling that he has to say that because he's my boss. But um and maybe that was the right decision because he could out talk me. Like, he's a trialist. He literally goes to trial and like speaks and convinces people of his point. So maybe that's why I wanted to bring him last. It's a compliment, okay, Thomas.
Which Tom, you can see Thomas's exit interview on the channel. That's coming out right before you're watching this one. So let's get into the nitty gritty of the round that Thomas is eliminated right before you go. How shocked were you with him being eliminated, and were you surprised with the people that flipped?
Yeah, at the time I was, and in hindsight, it makes sense. I also, there was this key pivotal moment, which like definitely tanked my whole game and was absolutely my fault that I was too enthusiastic about, was that at final eight, my alliance of four had half the numbers. And so I walked into a room with my alliance of four and I said, oh my God, guys, we have half the numbers. And Jodie outside heard me and said, oh my God, I need to do something about this. And walked upstairs to Hot Girl Chris, and they brought Taisha, and they said, uh, there's something that needs to be done. And I'm sure in other exit interviews you'll hear the details of that conversation, but essentially they decided that we needed to go.
Yep, Thomas did mention that was said, and then Jodie kind of ran with that. So,
Yeah.
do you think if you kind of like kept that to yourself, maybe we have a different outcome here?
No, because I think that it was already broiling a little bit for Taisha to want to flip, and that might have been like the instigating thing. But it was early in the night, and we still had an evening of discussion and then a morning of, and like she already had these relationships with these other people, Hot Girl Chris and Jodie, and um, I think that it was very possible it was going to happen anyway. I definitely blamed myself for it for like a hot minute, but it might have just been what was going to happen, and like, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Thomas is eliminated, uh, and you now are really need to win the challenge. It seems like you and Drew were left out of that, obviously. Um, and you were privy to Drew getting this public pendant of power, right?
I did not see this happen. People had to tell me about it inside because Drew didn't even tell me about it because he thought everybody saw. But I was just blindly searching for like all the answers because I was clueless and I had no idea what was going on because everything was so fast paced, and a lot of information happened a lot quickly that I couldn't process it all. So Drew was like screaming the answers at me, and so I was very focused in on one thing, and I did not see him finding it. I had to be told later. Not much later, like 20 minutes, but still.
Right. So, but you were aware that during this like strategy portion that he has this pendant of power, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was. And I was hopeful because I was having conversations with people, and people were saying, like, no, no, it was just one round, whatever, whatever. Like, I'll flip back. I want you with me. Like, and or not even necessarily like as intense as those things, but people saying that they were with me this round. And I did know that he had it. I thought he also knew. I perceived that I was going and was correct. I thought that he also had that same perception, and that um if he was going to play it on me, he he wasn't, is what I'm trying to say. And we talked about that after. Like, I said, would you have played it on me if you had known I had going? Because he ended up not realizing that I was going. And he said no. So
Okay.
It's fine that I didn't ask in my head because I just think that he it's not that he would have wasted it, but his game was more important than mine, to him, not to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I hope not.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so that's interesting. That you kind of answered my next question with that one. So you said that you had the feeling that you were gonna go, even though you guys were trying to make a pitch for Taisha to Hot Girl Chris, that she was aware of his name being floated around the last round, but you thought he was still gonna stick with her side, right?
Um, in the way that, like, however much you can make up for, doing the damage control that you need to do and saying it's you because of this, this, and this reason, but it's not you this round because the situation has changed. And so, like, but knowing that in this intense 20-minute to 20-minute like segments, that you can't let go or process these emotions as quickly. And so it might not appeal to you as much to want to flip back if you've just been voted for an hour ago or whatever.
Right.
And so
Um,
I did perceive that he wasn't going to want to do that however hard I pitched.
yeah. So going out, you're eliminated, you give good sport, everybody, a hug at the end. Was there anybody specifically that in that moment that you were like maybe pissed at?
No, no, I don't really think so. Just because I do recognize that it's just a game and that it's not. If we're down to final seven, like you're one in seven options, and if I at that point like take it as a compliment, and everybody's playing for themselves, and you can't blame them for wanting to make a move that's right for them. I was like a little upset very briefly. I had like a 30-second cry as I walked over to the prod house, but then I walked in and everybody was really excited to see me and I felt a lot better.
Good, good. How was the embrace from the jury once you said everybody was really happy to see you? Was anybody like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
why'd you
mean,
vote me out?
disappointed, happy. And like no, nobody was like that at all. In fact, I went in trying to before like people could get mad at me or whatever, like trying to apologize, and they were like, "No, no, tell us what happened." Like everybody was just really into the game, which was fun to see. And like by happy to see me, I mean like it was wonderful to like have people welcome me back, but at the same point with people telling me that they were disappointed because they wanted me to win, like felt good. So there wasn't really a downside to, and it was like early in the morning, so like I had all day to chill and took a little nap, and got to like got to know Thomas a little bit before the game started, but like not in a significant way. And so like being able to talk to people like about them and not about the game is a lot of fun in a setting where you're just like coming down from this high.
Right. So you are now a part of the jury, so we are not going to see the end of Zoe in this setting of Ascendance live just yet. You have a vote for the winner of the game, so there's still that to come for you. But the last question that I have for you, well, let's start with this. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about yet that you want to talk about regarding your game in the house?
Um, Not really. I just like had a great time. I would absolutely do it again. I just met so many amazing people that I've gotten to spend a lot of time with afterwards, especially. Like I said, it was all worth it because I got a job. But yeah, I think we covered it. If I'm always available for questioning.
Awesome. So my last question is, what was your favorite part? Was it getting a job?
Um, Aside from that, I'm gonna say yes to that, just because I feel like if I don't, I'll get in trouble. But but aside from that, because that happened a couple months after, but like hanging out afterwards. And I'll say I was very stressed during this game. Like I was sick almost every morning. Like had was talked to Mark a lot about how nauseous I felt. Like just a lot of anxiety and like not being able to have time to really think about the things that you want to do. Like 20 minutes is not a lot of time for strategy. And so I was really nervous for a lot of it. And so my favorite part was probably the come down from it and like getting to hang out with everybody afterwards. And like looking back on it, it was a lot of fun, but like very stressful. And I did not sleep at all, like I said. So yeah,
That could be the reason why you vote somebody out.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But Zoe, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Lost at Sea. It's great to hear from you. Um, and we will definitely see, how you end up casting your vote for a winner. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Of course. Thank you for having me.